Hello dear students and welcome to Sri Jaindra Rank Zone classes. I am Amit Ajmani, your mentor for science. I really hope that you all are doing good and coping up well with your studies, and I really hope that you people are actually working on a daily basis so that there should be no pending work and there should be no burden regarding the topics. And if not, kindly start doing the same, because it's always better that you study on a daily basis whatever topics are being taught. In today's session, we'll be taking up the topic of refraction of light. Now, first of all, what exactly is meant by refraction? Refraction is the bending of light rays when it goes from one medium to another. Now, what exactly causes this bending of light rays? And the reply is, it is due to the speed of light. Actually, the speed of light is different in different media. For example, the speed of light in air is 3 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second. But when in water, speed travels with a speed of 2.25 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second, and in glass it is 2 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second. It is a bit different because there are different types of glasses, but on an average basis we can relate that the speed of light in different media is different. It is because of this reason then when light is going from one medium to another, for example air to water or water to glass, the speed changes drastically, due to which the light rays, they get bent from their original path, and that bending of light rays is called refraction of light. Now we said that air, water, glass, etc. are all different mediums. So we already know what is meant by an optical medium. An optical medium is a medium in which light travels without much change in its intensity. The speed of light is changing, but not the intensity of light. Now these mediums can be further categorized as optically rarer medium and optically denser medium. Now what is meant by optically rarer and denser medium? The medium in which the speed of light is more, that is called optically rarer medium. Whereas the speed of light is less in a medium, then we are going to call that medium to be optically denser medium. And we always relate these optical rarer or denser in comparison between two media. For example, among air and water, the speed of light is more in air. So air will be optically rarer as compared to water. But the same water, when compared to glass, now water will be optically rarer medium as compared to glass. So if we relate water as a medium, it is optically denser medium when compared with air, but it is optically rarer medium when compared with glass. Got it? Now, what happens is, whenever ray of light is going from one medium to another, it bends. And there is a rule for bending. We know that if a ray of light is going from rarer to denser medium, in that case, the ray of light is going to bend towards normal. And if the opposite happens, the ray of light is moving from denser to rarer medium, then the bending of light will take place away from normal. Let us try to relate it with the help of this example. We have taken a glass slab. This is a glass slab. Right. Now a ray of light is coming from air, and air is a rarer medium. This ray of light is coming from the rarer medium, that is air. It is entering the glass, which is a denser medium, and from glass it is again going into the rarer medium. Now there are few important terms that we already know. Let us revise them once again. First is the incident ray. Now what exactly is the incident ray? The ray of light which is coming, that is known as the incident ray. In this diagram, the ray AO is called the incident ray, right? Now, when it goes into the glass, it bends and the bending takes place towards the normal. What is normal? The point of incidence is O. Here, if we draw a perpendicular, this is known as normal. So, when the ray of light goes from rarer medium to denser medium, that is from air to glass, it bends towards the normal. This ray is called the refracted ray. Normal is a perpendicular drawn at the point of incidence. Now, when this refracted ray goes from glass again into air, then this ray of light which comes outside the glass slab is called emergent ray. So, there are three types of rays we need to remember: incident ray, refracted ray and emergent ray. Normal is not a ray, it is just a perpendicular drawn at the point of incidence. Now, we must be aware about the different angles. One is the angle of incidence. What is this? This is the angle between the incident ray and the normal. In this figure, this is angle of incidence, which is represented as angle I. Then, angle of refraction is the angle between the refracted ray and the normal. This is our angle of refraction, represented by angle R. And angle of emergence, the angle between the emergent ray and the normal, is called the angle of emergence, represented by angle small e. Got it? So these are a few terms which we need to remember. Now, if we relate once again the figure, then the incident ray AO was coming, and if this glass slab would not have been here, this should have gone this way. But because of this glass slab, it has been bent, and now the emergent ray is what exactly is the path of the incident ray. So this displacement from its original position, this displacement is termed as lateral displacement. So what is lateral displacement? It is the displacement of the ray of light when it goes from one medium to another. It is going to get displaced, it is going to get aside, it is going to get away from its original path. And that gap, that difference, that distance is called lateral displacement. Got it? Now, quite importantly, one thing we need to remember, that if a ray of light is falling normally, that means perpendicularly, and even if it is going from one medium to another, it is not going to show refraction, it will go straight. And when does it happen? When the ray of light is falling perpendicularly on a surface, or it is going normally from one medium to another. In that case, there will be no bending and the ray of light is going to go straight. Clear? Now, next we'll be studying about the various effects of refraction of light. There are so many effects, but these are a few which are normally asked. A stick which is partly immersed in water, it appears to be bent at the water surface. Why does it happen? Because of the refraction. Because this particular part which is dipped in water, when the light rays are coming from this particular part of the pen or pencil or stick, then in that case, when it goes from water to air, water is a denser medium, air is a rarer medium, it bends and it bends away from the normal. Now, when the light rays reach our eyes coming from this direction, we just extend them and we see the image of this stick like this, and it appears to be bent. Exactly same is the case when an object is placed under water, it appears to be raised, again because of refraction of light. The pool of water appears to be less deep than it actually is because of refraction. In all the three examples, the basic reason is that whenever light rays goes from one medium to another, in these examples it is going from water to air, it will bend away from the normal, right? There are so many other also examples: atmospheric refraction, the twinkling of stars, the color of the sky. They are all because of refraction. Okay. Now, laws of refraction we already have studied. Let us try to brush up once again. First law states that the incident ray, the refracted ray, and the normal. We don't use the word ray with normal. Fine. The incident ray, the refracted ray, and normal at the point of incidence all lie in the same plane. This is the first law of refraction, just as it was in the law of reflection. But the second law is different. In reflection, we have studied the second law, that angle of incidence is equal to angle of reflection. But in case of refraction, it is not same. In refraction, we know that there will be bending of light taking place. If it is going from rarer to denser, the bending will be towards the normal. If it is going denser to rarer, the bending will be away from the normal. Therefore, it is quite certain that the angle of incidence and angle of refraction will not be same. Right? Now, it was by Snell's experiment in 1621 that there was a ratio found between the angle of incidence and angle of refraction. And that is our second law of refraction, which is also termed as Snell's law of refraction. Now, what did Snell prove through his experiments? That if we are going to take the sine of angle of incidence and sine of angle of refraction, and we take a ratio of these two, then every time the value, the ratio between these two comes out to be a constant. So this is what Snell's law of refraction states, that the ratio of sine of angle of incidence to the sine of refraction is a constant for a particular pair of media. So we can also write it like sin I upon sin R is equal to a constant, and this constant is termed as refractive index of a particular media, which is denoted by small n. So this constant is denoted by small n and is known as the refractive index of a particular medium. So these are the two laws of refraction of light. Now, quite importantly, we need to understand a bit of detail of this refractive index. Refractive index is a constant. We have already studied. Refractive index is the ratio of sin I and sin R. We have already studied. So the very first way of calculating the refractive index is with the formula n is equal to sin I upon sin R. But there is another way, second way of calculating the refractive index, and it is through the speed of light in various medium. Refractive index is represented as n in small. On the left hand side below we write 1, and on the right hand side we write 2. So this is the refractive index when a ray of light is going from medium number 1 to medium number 2, because the light is traveling in two different media. How we are going to calculate it? It is calculated as refractive index is equal to V1 upon V2, where V1 is the speed of light in medium 1 and V2 is the speed of light in medium 2. Right? So this is based on the speed of light in different media. Now, if light is going from air to any other medium like water or glass or diamond, then that refractive index is termed as absolute refractive index. I repeat, when the ray of light is passing from air or vacuum into any different media. But if the ray of light is passing among two media which are other than air or vacuum, then in that case the refractive index is termed as relative refractive index. For example, if the ray of light is passing from water to glass, or glass to water, or diamond to water, or water to diamond, then in that case the two media involved are water or glass, or water or diamond. They are not including air. That is why it will be called relative refractive index. This is the second formula for calculating refractive index if the speed of light is given to us. The third formula to calculate refractive index is that one refractive index is the reciprocal of the another. Refractive index for light ray going from first medium to second will be equal to the reciprocal 1 upon the refractive index of light rays going from medium second to medium 1. Right? So this is the refractive index which we can calculate if the refractive index of these same two media are given to us. We'll take the reciprocal. So these are the three ways to calculate refractive index. Now, important thing that we need to relate is higher the refractive index, optically denser the medium will be. If we are given three medium A, B and C, the refractive index of first medium is 1.8. The refractive index of second is 1.3 and the refractive index of third is 0.9. So A has the highest refractive index. So among these A, B, C, it will be the densest medium. And lower the refractive index, optically rarer the medium will be. So C has the lowest refractive index. So C will be the optically rarest medium among A, B and C. And we already know that if the medium is optically denser, then the speed of light will be less in it. And if it is optically rarer medium, the speed of light will be more in it. So another way of saying the same thing is that among these three medium ABC, light is traveling slowest in medium A and light is traveling fastest in medium C. This is quite important. You need to relate, you need to remember. Okay, so this is all about our refractive index, a bit about it. Now we'll be studying about refraction of light by spherical lenses. Now spherical lenses, we already know that there are two types, convex lens and concave lens. Convex lens is thick in the center and thin at the ends, whereas concave lens is thin at the center and thick at the ends. Convex lens is also termed as converging lens. Why? Because it is going to converge all the light rays passing through it. And concave lens is also known as diverging lens because it is going to diverge all the light rays passing through it. Now there are different terms that we need to remember. These three terms: optical center, principal axis and principal focus. Let us see what they are. For example, in figure number 1, we have got the convex lens. The light rays are coming parallel to the principal axis and after passing from the lens, they are getting converged. Right? So, the center of the lens represented by capital C is known as the optical center, whether it is the concave lens or the convex lens. The ray of light passing normally or perpendicularly from the optical center is called the principal axis. Same in both concave as well as convex lens, right? And in case of convex lens, the focus is the point on the principal axis where all the light rays converge after passing from the convex lens. In the case of concave lens, the rays are coming parallel to the principal axis. This concave lens is going to diverge these light rays. So these diverged light rays are not going to meet anywhere. So what we do is, when we extend them behind, then the point at which they appear to meet, that is known as the focus of a concave lens. You also need to relate the difference between the focus of a convex lens and focus of a concave lens. What are the differences? The focus of a convex lens is a real focus because the light rays are actually meeting after converging, whereas the focus of a concave lens is a virtual focus, because the light rays are not actually meeting, they are just appearing to meet. The focus of a convex lens is on the right hand side of the lens, whereas the focus of a concave lens is on the left hand side. It is in front of the lens. We use the word front and behind for left and right respectively. So these are the terms you need to remember while we are talking about the convex and concave lenses. Now let us talk about the image formation. In reflection also we have done the same thing, and in refraction we'll be taking up exactly the same. First of all, we'll be just considering how images are formed through convex lenses, then we'll study about concave lenses. Now there are certain rules for obtaining images formed by convex lenses. Total there are 3 rules. What are these? First rule says that if the light ray is coming parallel to the principal axis after passing from a convex lens, it has to pass from the focus. The second rule states that if a ray of light is passing from the optical center, it is going to get undeviated. It will pass through it same. And the third rule states that if a ray of light is passing from the focus, then after refraction it is going to get parallel to the principal axis. So these are the 3 rules based on which we'll be forming images. This image formation you already have done. I will be just revising it. Now, depending upon where we have kept the object, the different type of images are formed. Importantly, you need to relate what type of image is getting formed. The first case, if the object is placed between the optical center and the focus, we can see that the image formed is in front of the lens. And what kind of image is getting formed? It is a virtual image, it is an erect image, and it is a magnified image. All these we have done, so I'm not going into much of the details as to, for example, explaining it in detail. First ray is passing going parallel, then it is going to pass from the focus. Second ray of light will be passing from the optical center, they are going away from each other, and then we'll just extend them back, and the point where they actually appear to meet, that will be the image, the point of image. So this already you know. I hope so, right? If not, then please make sure that you practice these ray diagrams. Second, when the object is placed at the focus. Now, when the object is placed at the focus, in that case, the image is going to get formed at infinity. It will be a real image. The image will be inverted and it will be highly magnified. Clear? Third case. Now if we place the object between f dash and 2f dash, in that case the image will be formed behind the lens on the right side beyond 2f. The image will be real, the image will be inverted, and it will be magnified image. If the object, that is our fourth case, if the object is placed at 2f, in that case the image formed will be at 2f itself on the other side, and the image formed will be real inverted and same sized image will be formed. Fifth case, when the object is placed beyond 2f dash, now we'll see that the image will be formed between f and 2f on the other side of the lens. The image formed will be real, inverted, and diminished. Last case, when the object is placed at infinity, then in that case, the image formed will be at focus. The image will be real, it will be inverted, and it will be highly diminished as compared to the object. If we summarize, this is the table that we need to remember. This is the summarized version of all the images formed by a convex lens when the objects are placed at different positions. So first of all, we'll be taking up where exactly the object was placed. It was placed between F and the optical center of the lens. The image formed will be on the same side. It will be a virtual, erect image and enlarged image. So this is the first case which is considered to be exceptional, where the image formed is virtual and erect. Otherwise, in all the other positions, the image formed by a convex lens is always real and inverted, and it is always on the other side of the lens. If the object is at focus, then the image will be formed at infinity. It will be a real, inverted and highly magnified or enlarged image. If the object is placed between f and 2f, then the image will be formed beyond 2f. Once again, real inverted image, it will be enlarged. If the object is placed at 2f, then in that case, image formed will be at 2f. Real inverted image, which will be same size as that of the object. When the object is beyond 2f, then the image will be formed between f and 2f. It will be real inverted image, but now it will be diminished. When the object is placed at infinity, the image will be formed at focus. It will be real inverted image and it will be highly diminished image. So this is the table which shows the summary of all the various images which are formed by a convex lens. Now let us study about concave lenses. Once again, what are the rules? First rule says that if a ray of light is coming parallel to the principal axis, it will be diverged by a concave lens in such a way that it appears to pass from the focus. Second rule is the same as that of convex lens, that if a ray of light is passing from the optical center, then in that case it is going to go undeviated. It will not get deviated. It will not get diverged. The third rule is just the opposite of first, that if a ray of light is coming appearing to be passing from the focus, then after refraction from the concave lens, it is going to become parallel to the principal axis. So these are the three rules for obtaining images formed by concave lenses. Now when we talk about the ray diagrams, they are quite simple, because anywhere you place an object in front of a convex lens, concave lens, anywhere, the image has exactly the same characteristic. It will be a virtual image, it will be a diminished image, and it will be formed in front of the concave lens. Let us see in the form of a summary that if we are placing the object anywhere between optical center and infinity, the image formed is virtual and erect. It will be diminished and it will be in front of the lens between optical center and focus. If the image is kept at infinity, the image again will be virtual and erect. But this time it will be formed at focus in front of the lens and it will be a highly diminished image. So image formation through concave lenses is pretty simple, quite easy. So this is all about the image formations. Now these convex and concave lenses are quite important because they are used at many places in our day-to-day life, where let us have an idea about it. First of all, let us study about convex lenses. These convex lenses are used in our spectacles to correct the defect of vision called hypermetropia. You must have already studied in human eye. These convex lenses are used in making simple cameras. They are also used by palmists or watchmakers as a magnifying glass, because they magnify the image of the object when the object is kept between the first case that we have studied, when the object is kept between the optical center and the focus. And they are also used in making various optical instruments like microscopes, telescopes, film projectors, etc. So quite useful. Now, when we talk about the concave lenses, they are also used at lot many places. In spectacles, they are used to correct the defect of vision called myopia. These concave lenses are used as eye lens in Galilean telescope. Along with convex lenses, they are used to make high quality lens systems for optical instruments. And quite important, this has been asked 2 or 3 odd times, they are used in wide angle spy holes in the doors. They are concave lenses. Why? Because no matter where the object is placed, they are going to form an erect and diminished image. So that is the main reason why they are used in spy hole, wide angle spy hole in doors. So this is all about our convex and concave lenses. Now, quite importantly, new Cartesian sign conventions. Let us try to study them. These are very important for attempting all the type of numericals. Now, new Cartesian actually gave his sign convention regarding two things. One is the distances and another is the height. When we talk about distances, we have three type of distances. Object distance represented by small u, image distance represented by small v, and focus distance also known as focal length represented by small f. When we talk about height, it is h, that is the height of object, and h dash, which is the height of image. Now, for these two, the sign convention says that whatever the lens is, whether it is a convex lens or it is a concave lens, if this is the principal axis, all the distances are measured in front or behind the lenses. That means on the left and right of the lenses. Left hand side is considered to be minus and right hand side is considered to be plus, whether it is concave or convex. Correct? When it comes to height, the height is measured above or below the principal axis. Anything erect means above the principal axis is considered to be positive, and anything below the principal axis, that means the inverted, is considered to be negative. So these sign conventions you must know whenever you will be attempting any kind of numericals. Another thing that you will be requiring for attempting numericals is lens formula. Now the lens formula says that 1 by f is equal to 1 by v minus 1 by u, where f is the focal length, u is the object distance, and v is the image distance. Out of these three things, two will be given to us. We have to find out the third one. Sign conventions are quite important while using this formula, because if you will put wrong signs, your answer will be incorrect. Another important formula that we need to relate is, as we have done in reflection, same we'll be doing, that is the formula for magnification produced by lenses. Now what is magnification? It is the ratio of the size of the object to that of the image, right? So this is calculated by two formulas. One is magnification is given by h2 by h1. We can also write it to be h dash by h, or we can write hi by ho. It is one or the same thing, where this h2 is the height of image, h1 is the height of object. Or we can also represent it in different ways. H is the height of object and h dash is the height of image. Or we can simply write hi and ho for height of object and height of image. Right? Second formula for calculating is, it is the ratio of the distances of image to that of object from the lens. So m is equal to v by u, where v is the image distance and u is the object distance. Now we need to remember these 5 points. These are very, very, very important. You get so many questions based on this particular simple concept, that if magnification has a positive value. If magnification has a positive value, then the image formed is erect, and whenever the image is erect, it has to be virtual. On the other hand, if the magnification has a negative value, the image formed is inverted, and inverted images are always real. So this is the first thing that we need to relate, whether the magnification is in plus or in minus. If it is plus, the image is erect, and if it is in minus, the image is inverted. Another thing, what is the actual absolute value of the magnification? If the value of magnification is more than 1, that means it is an enlarged or magnified image. If the value of magnification is equal to 1, the image is of same size. If the magnification is less than 1, the image is diminished or reduced. You will be given a question that the magnification of a lens is -2 or the magnification is plus 1.4. What does it mean? What type of lens it is? The first thing, magnification is in minus. That means it is an inverted image, and inverted images can only be formed by convex lenses, never by concave lenses. Second thing, if the magnification is greater than 1, the image is enlarged. If the magnification is of same size, both the cases, it has to be convex lens, because the concave lenses always forms diminished images. So first thing, let us see this particular question. Magnification is -2. Minus signs means that this is an inverted image, and 2 means it is a magnified image because it is greater than 1. So what type of lens it will be? It will be a convex lens. Next, the magnification is plus 1.4. Plus means the image is erect, and 1.4 means it is more than 1, it is magnified. Again, what type of lens it is? It is convex lens because it's a magnified image. But if the magnification is given to be plus 0.7, now plus signs means it is an erect image, 0.7 means it is a diminished image because it is less than 1, therefore it is a concave lens. So this is what you need to relate. This is what you need to know. This is very, very important. Got it? Now, after magnification, we come to the power of a lens. Now, many a times, the power of a lens is basically wrongly defined as the reciprocal of focal length. It is the formula of power of a lens. It is not actually the definition of power of a lens. The power of a lens is the bending ability of a lens. It is the ability of a lens to bend the light rays passing through it. That is the definition of power of a lens. Yeah, the formula is power is equal to 1 by f, where f is focal length, and we need to remember that focal length should always be in meters, never in centimeters. If it is in centimeters, we need to convert it into meters. The same topic we have already studied in human eye. There also we have just considered and studied about the power of lenses. Now the SI unit of power is diopter. We need to know it, and the power of a lens can be calculated or measured directly by this instrument, diopter meter. Fine. Now we have got two type of lenses. One is convex lens and another is concave lens. The convex lens has a positive focal length. Therefore, the power of a convex lens will also be positive. But when we talk of concave lens, it has a negative focal length. So, its power will also be negative. Got it? So, this is how we'll calculate and relate the power of a lens. Now, power of combination, quite simple, that if the lenses of different types are placed in close contact with each other, then the total power of the combination is equal to the sum of the individual powers of these lenses. Important thing to remember is just the signs. If it is a concave lens, we have to write its power in minus. If it is a convex lens, we have to write its power in plus. Got it? So this is the basic idea about power of lenses. Now in this chapter, you also need to relate a few optical instruments like simple microscope, compound microscope and telescopes. Now when you will be doing it, you need to do their diagrams, their use and the position of lenses over there. Very importantly, you need to relate the types of images formed by each of these. So please make sure that you go through the diagrams of all these optical instruments. This is all about refraction of light. Now students, after understanding all about refraction of light, we have revised, we have brushed up the whole chapter, the whole topic. Now let us continue with what are the various type of examination questions based on this topic. Here you need to remember once again, objective type questions, multiple choice questions are given to us. We need to relate all the four options. We need to apply all our concepts and then we are going to give the answers. There are certain answers which we already know. Very good. We will confirm whether the answer you knew was right or wrong. There are certain things that you didn't know. In that case, just try to understand and from now onwards try to learn and remember as to what was the answer of that particular question that you didn't know. Let us see the questions one by one. It is a very important topic. So there are so many questions which have been asked or which may be asked in your NTSC examination papers or other entrance tests. So you need to relate and go through these very sincerely. Let us come to the questions one by one. First question. The refractive index of a medium is high. So if the refractive index is high, that means it is a denser medium, and in denser medium, the speed of light in that medium will be, if it is a denser medium, the speed of light in that medium will be low. Got it? We need to remember the concept. I hope you remember when I taught that the refractive index, if it is more, then it will be a denser medium, and in denser medium the speed of light is less. Had it been the opposite, the refractive index of a medium is very low, right? What does it mean? It means it is a rarer medium, and in that rarer medium the speed of light will be obviously more. Fine. Next question. If a ray of light is entering a medium from air at an angle of 90 degree. Now, it is entering the medium at an angle of 90 degree. 90 degree means it is falling normally, perpendicularly. So, in that case, there will be no bending taking place and this ray of light will go straight. This will be our optional answer. Fine. Next question. When sunlight passes through the atmosphere, the blue color is scattered more as compared to the red color. Now we know Vibgyor. White light is consisted of 7 colors. Vibgyor, violet, indigo, blue, yellow, orange, red. Now when we compare the different colors, the important thing is that these colors have got different wavelengths, because of which they are scattered at a different angle. Among these, the red color has the longest wavelength, and as we go down, the violet color has the least. So, if the blue color is scattered more as compared to the red color, why is it so? Because the blue color has shorter wavelength as compared to the red color. Got it? Now there are different types of scatterings you must have studied. That is Raman and Rayleigh and my scattering. So that concept is applied here. There are times when questions are being asked from that concept also. The scattering caused by the pollen, dust, smoke and water droplets in the lower portion of the atmosphere, that is known as my scattering. So you need to remember that in the lower portion of the atmosphere, the pollen, dust, smoke and water droplets, they scatter light, and that is known as my scattering. Correct? Second important thing is, when my scattering takes place, when it takes place, when the diameter of the scatterer is dash than the wavelength of the incident light. So it should be either similar to or larger than the wavelength of the incident light. So in my scattering, you have seen two things. Number one, it is the scattering which is caused by the pollen, dust, smoke and water droplets in the lower portion of the atmosphere. Secondly, it takes place only when the diameter of the scatterer is either similar or larger than the wavelength of the incident light. Clear? Let us come to the next question. Again, in my scattering, the amount of scattering is independent of. What is it independent of? It is independent of the wavelength. It is independent of the wavelength. It does not depend upon the wavelength of the light. Next question. A ray of light while traveling from medium P to Q. There are two mediums, P and Q. Light is traveling from P to Q. It deviates away from the normal. Now, when does it happen? It happens when light ray is going from denser to rarer medium. So it means that P is denser medium as compared to Q. Now what exactly is the question being asked? The speed of light in P is more than Q, or Q is more than P, or P is same as Q, or none of the above. Now they can't be same, that is for sure. So I'll strike it off. Now I know that P is denser medium, and in denser medium speed of light is less. So the speed of light is more in Q as compared to P, because Q is a rarer medium. We need to apply concepts, we need to go step by step, and we need to relax while giving the answers. Do not jump to the conclusions, do not be in a hurry, do not make any kind of guesses. You know the concepts, just try to think logically and rationally, you will get your right answer. Let us see the next question. Now in this question, just a second please. In question number 8, the perpendicular shift in the path of light while emerging another optical medium is called. The shift in the path of light, it is called lateral displacement. We have already studied that it is the deviation from its actual path when it goes from another optical medium. Next, a material medium having the lowest optical density is. Now, among water, glass, air and diamond, the lowest optical density will be of air, because speed of light is maximum in air or vacuum. So it will be having lowest optical density. Next question. The scattering of light rays by the colloidal particles. So if the colloidal particles are scattering the light, this is called Tyndall effect, because my scattering we have already studied. It's not my scattering or Rayleigh or Raman scattering. Next, the spectral lines having frequency equal to the incident ray frequency are called the Rayleigh lines. These are the spectral lines whose frequency is equal to the incident ray frequency. And if the frequency is other than the incident frequency, then in that case, those spectral lines are called Raman lines. So Rayleigh lines and Raman lines, you need to know. If the frequency is lower than the incident ray frequency, they are called Stokes lines. And if the frequency is higher than the incident ray frequency, it is called anti-Stokes lines. So Rayleigh line, Raman line, Stokes lines, anti-Stokes lines. These all the four lines we can relate and learn now that the spectral lines, if their frequency is equal to the incident ray frequency, they are Rayleigh lines. If it is lower than the incident ray frequency, Stokes lines. If it is higher than the incident ray frequency, anti-Stokes lines. If they are other than the incident ray frequency, they are Raman lines. So these type of questions you need to remember, you need to keep in your mind. Got it? It is all about the frequency of the spectral lines because of which they are being given different names. Clear to all? Next question. A ray of light passes from a convex lens and goes undeviated. There is no deviation in the ray of light after passing from a convex lens. So if it is going undeviated, it must be going from the optical center, because if it is going from focus, it will be bent and it will become parallel to the principal axis. If it is from 2f, same case, it will be bent. From center of curvature, there is nothing called center of curvature in the lenses. It is the optical center. Center of curvature is the term used in mirrors. Got it? Next question. An object is placed in front of a convex lens and equal sized image is formed. In all the questions, students, we need to relate the key point. That is the most important hint that we can get. So if it is an equal sized image, then where is the object placed? It is placed at twice the focal length, 2f. There will be the image formed at 2f, but on the other side. Got it? Next, if you want to obtain a virtual and enlarged image through a convex lens, it is only possible when the object is placed between P and F. You can relate here that the table in the form of summary that we have studied while doing the ray diagrams and the image formations through the convex lens, that table is very important. You have to memorize that table as to where the object will be placed to get what type of image, where we'll get the image. So the table, please summarize and go through it properly, learn it properly. Okay. Next question. A convex lens is used to correct the defect of vision called. Now we know that the very first option, hypermetropia, is the correct option. But the problem is, whenever there is both A and C, this type of option given, again I would repeat my line, do not jump to the conclusions unless until you have seen all the options. Do not just jump onto the conclusions. It happens sometimes when we are doing a question and we get our right answer in the first or the second option, we get excited. We become happy because we know the answer. We just mark it up. But the problem is, if he's saying both A and C, that means C also gets, it should deserve a chance to be looked at. And the C is long-sightedness. This long-sightedness is the another name for hypermetropia only. So in this case, our answer is not hypermetropia or not long-sightedness. It is both A and C. This is what you need to remember while doing your exam. Got it? Next question. 19. What kind of image is formed when an object is placed at infinity in front of a concave lens. When we are talking of concave lens, simple and straightforward, real images can't be formed because concave lens cannot form a real image. Now the question is finished. Another thing, we are left with virtual, erect and diminished. Virtual, erect and magnified. Magnified images can't be formed by concave lens. So we just are left with one answer, that is the actual answer. The image formed will be virtual, erect and diminished. You see, you are just applying your concepts that real images can't be formed by concave lenses. Magnified images, same size images, can't be formed by concave lenses. So it has to be a diminished image. Once again, the table that we have studied above, you need to learn that table thoroughly by heart. The next question also comes with the same table. A highly diminished image of an object is formed at the focus of a convex lens. If it is a convex lens, image is formed at focus, the object has to be at infinity. Why? Whether it is concave or convex. If the image is getting formed at focus, the object has to be at infinity. Right? Now the next question is quite important and quite good. The size of the image formed dash as the distance between the object and the lens is decreased. Now, in order to attempt such questions, please try to close your eyes and relate where the object was placed and where the image is getting formed. If we are decreasing the distance, that means try to relate the table in the opposite sense. Object was kept at infinity, image is formed at focus. The size is very small. When we brought the object closer to the lens, the image got back and it increased. When we decreased once again the distance, then the image goes back and the size of the image increases. So when we are going to decrease the distance between the object and lens, the size of the image is going to increase. Quite important, right? Next question. Name the lens used as eye lens of Galilean telescope. We have studied in the uses. It is the concave lens. Name the type of lens used to correct the defect of vision called myopia. It is again concave lens. Name the lens used in wide angle spy hole. It is concave lens. So these are the questions which have come in different years based on the uses. So uses are equally important. Next, magnification questions. I told you they are very important. The magnification is -1. First of all, what exactly is meant by -1? Minus means the image is inverted and 1 means it is a same sized image. What type of lens is going to make it? Convex lens, of course. Concave lens can't and bifocal lenses can't. Okay, so the lens will be convex lens. Now students, we are taking up these questions. So I would just like to ask one thing. Are you actually able to relate the questions as well as the answers? If yes, very good. But if no, it simply means that you are actually not clear with the concepts. So what you need to do? You need to go back home, you need to take out your book, you need to study, you need to practice the ray diagrams, you need to learn, and most importantly, you need to learn how to retain and how to apply these concepts. Just learning is not important. We need to apply these concepts in the context of the questions. Fine. Now these are the magnification questions. I think you should be able to attempt all these now. The magnification produced by the lens is -1. Minus means the image is inverted. 1 is same size. And if it is inverted, it has to be real. 1 means same size. So we have got same size in all the 4 options. Okay. Minus means inverted. I have got inverted only in these 2 options. So I can directly cross the B and D option. Now the difference left is whether it is real inverted or virtual. So inverted can't be virtual. So I'll cross the third option also. A option is my correct answer. Fine. Next question. The magnification produced by a lens is plus 0.5. Plus indicates that it is an erect image, virtual image, and 0.5 indicates it's a diminished image. Whenever we are talking about diminished images, only concave lens can form a diminished image in virtual erect case. Convex also forms diminished, but they are real and inverted. So it should be in minus. Then it would have been convex. Otherwise, it is concave lens. Again, the image formed by lenses, the magnification is plus 0.8. Plus shows that it is an erect image. Now, if it is an erect image, the first option inverted, the third option inverted, simply cross them up. It should be erect. Next, whenever it is erect, it may be diminished or it may be magnified. But here, the magnification is 0.8, which is less than 1. So the image is diminished, of course. So both these options have got erect, erect, diminished, diminished. Now the actual question is whether it will be real or virtual. So we need to apply our learning concept that the erect images are always virtual. So I have to cross the B option. The D option is the correct one, that the image formed will be virtual, erect, and diminished. Got it? Next question. The magnification produced by a lens is plus 2.2. Plus means erect image, 2.2 is magnified. The moment it comes magnified, it cannot be concave or bifocal. It has to be convex. This is what I told you while we were taking up that topic. Next question. Magnification produced by the lens is minus 1.75. Minus means it is inverted and real image, and 1.75 means more than 1, it has to be magnified, right? So it is real, inverted, and magnified. A is my correct option. Why others not? Because real can't be erect, it is wrong. Virtual, erect, and magnified. Virtual has to be erect, and we have got minus sign, so we needed inverted image. And when we are talking about inverted images are never virtual. So all the options other than the first ones are wrong. Now these all the questions, minimum 6-7 questions we have done from this topic magnification, so you can very well understand the importance of this topic. When I was teaching you, I just told when we were doing this topic that you get question from this topic in one way or the another. So those 5 points, depending upon the magnification being positive or negative, and magnification being equal to 1, greater than 1, and less than 1, you just cram that topic up, learn it through by heart, because that is important topic. We have seen so many questions coming from that topic since last many years. Next questions are now based on power. Let us see. The ability of a lens to converge or diverge a light ray is called power, and it depends on power. What is the formula for power? 1 by f. So it depends upon, of course, the focal length of the lens. Next question. The power of a lens is called 1 diopter if the focal length is. We know the formula for power is equal to 1 by f, and importantly f should be in meters. So the focal length should be 1 meter. He will confuse you with centimeter or with meter square. So you don't have to get confused. You need to stick to your concepts. It is 1 meter. Now, the power of a lens is plus 2 diopters. If the power is plus, then in that case the nature of lens has to be, we know that the convex lenses have the power and focal length in plus, so the answer will be convex lens. And if the power is minus 3 diopters, the power of concave lenses is in minus, so our answer is concave lens. Got it? Next, a concave lens always produces, a concave lens cannot produce a real image. So we'll cross it up. It always produces virtual. Perfect. It always produces erect. Perfect. So our answer is both B and D. Look out for all the options first. Only then write your answer. Fine. Next question. Real images are made by, of course, convex lenses. The bifocal and the concave cannot form the real images. Now this is a topic which we have done previously about human eye. The topic is related. The focal length of the eye lens increases. Now if the focal length is increasing, then in that case that means the power of the lens is decreasing. We are talking about the eye lens. And when exactly is the power of lens decreases? When the muscles are relaxed. And this relax we have got in two options. Contract will strike it off. But when the focal length increases, the lens becomes thinner. So these are the two different concepts you need to relate. One is when the eye muscles are relaxed, the focal length increases. And if the focal length increases, the lens becomes thinner. Got it? Let us come to the next question. Which one of the following materials cannot be used to make a lens? We can have refraction through water, we can have through glass, even through plastic, but through clay we cannot get refraction. So clay cannot be used to make any lens. Right? Next, where should an object be placed in front of a convex lens to get a real image? Now there are so many places where we can get a real image, but the key point is coming further, the real image of the size of the object. That means our image should be of the same size of that of object. So in that case now the image will be formed equal if the object is kept at twice the focal length. Once again we need to remember the table. You see all those questions are coming from there only. Now next is a different question. The middle vascular coat that darkens the eye chamber and prevents refraction by absorbing the light rays, choroid. This is something which either you have learnt, otherwise if you haven't, please try to learn it, that okay, choroid is the part of the eye which darkens the eye chamber and it absorbs the light rays, because of which it will prevent refraction because it is absorbing all the light rays. Fine. Now we all know that the image of the object is formed by the human eye at, of course, the retina. Clear? Let us come to the next question. What should be the position of an object so that a real and inverted image of same size is obtained? Once again the same question. Whenever we want to have the same size image, the object has to be placed at twice the focal length in front of the convex lens. Got it? Next question. A tank of water appears to be less deep than it actually is due to. Why is it so? It is because of the refraction of light. We have studied about another phenomena also, the tank of water appearing less deep, or the stick, it appears to be bent at the surface. These are all because of refraction of light. A very simple question. I think this is the question which every one of us want that these are the type of questions which should come. The unit of power, it should not be powder, it should be power. Misprinting, sorry for that. The unit of power of lens is, of course, diopter. No way we can get confused in it. No way that we are going to get it wrong. Every one of us should know that the unit of power of lens is diopter. Next, the focal length of the thick lens having greater radius of curvature in comparison to the thin lens will be. We have just studied a question where the focal length increased and we saw that the lens was thinner. So now if the focal length is of the thick lens, that means as compared to the thin lens, its focal length will be of course lesser, because if it will be a thin lens, the focal length will increase. Now students, you must be knowing about the primary colors and secondary colors, right? The red, blue, green, they are the primary colors, which are also known as basic colors of light. Red, green and blue, they are the primary or basic colors. And these colors which are obtained by mixing any of these primary colors, they are known as secondary colors. For example, if we mix red and green, we get yellow. On mixing blue and green, we get peacock blue. On mixing red and blue, we get magenta. And when we mix all these three primary colors, then we get white light. That means red, green and blue, they will mix together to get white light. Right? Now, any two colors which when mixed produce white light, they are known as complementary colors. For example, blue and yellow, they are complementary colors. When we will mix blue and yellow, white light will be formed. Similarly, green and magenta. Similarly, red and peacock blue. So these are the complementary colors. You need to remember them. So in this question, we are being asked which is not a primary color. Red, blue and green are the primary colors. Yellow is not a primary color. Fine. Now the images formed by the object due to long-sightedness. When it is long-sightedness, the image is formed behind the retina. If it would have been short-sightedness, now what is long-sightedness? It is hypermetropia. If it would have been short-sightedness, that is myopia. In that case, the image is formed in front of the retina. Clear? Next question. Astigmatism occurs when the cornea does not have a truly spherical shape. So this defect of astigmatism, it is rectified by using cylindrical lenses. We have studied already in human eye. Next, which one represents the unit of refractive index? Now this is a trick question because refractive index N has no units. It is simply an absolute value without any unit. Got it? Next question. It is atmospheric refraction. The planets do not twinkle like stars. Stars appear to twinkle because of atmospheric refraction, because they are very far, because they are point objects. But planets do not twinkle because they are nearer to Earth as compared to stars. That is why they do not twinkle like stars. Had it been that they are also very far away like stars, in that case they would have also been like point objects. In that case even they would have twinkled, but not right now. Next question. When an object approaches a convex lens. This question we have already done in the same class, but it was with a different language. Now over there, if you remember, we have seen that if the distance between the object and lens is decreased, then what will happen to the size of the image? The question is same, the answer of course is same, that it will increase, but now the way of asking the question has been changed. When an object approaches a convex lens means the distance between the lens and the object is indirectly decreasing, right? So the size of the image formed will increase. Got it? Let us come to the next question. Which one of the following denotes the unit of power? Again, we know that the unit of power is diopter. Next question. Question number 53. Lot many questions are there. You can see that how many questions are being asked. How important this particular topic of refraction is. There are times when as a student we feel tired and we feel bored. Sir, how long we have been doing this part? How many questions are still pending? Sir, so many questions. Of course they are, but instead of getting tired or bored, just try to be excited and take it in a positive way, as to a simple topic is so important then that based on that topic you are able to attempt so many questions. We are already at 53, right? And we have been discussing one by one. So how many questions are importantly asked from this topic? That should be the positive way of taking it. And don't worry, not much left. So we'll be just winding it off in another 5-10 minutes. So let us focus once again on the topic. The ray of light goes straight on passing from the dash of the convex lens. No need to specify convex lens. Even if it would have been concave, it wouldn't have been it would be the same thing. Optical center. Whenever ray of light passes from the optical center, it goes undeviated. It never gets deviated. It will go straight, whether it is convex or concave, applicable to both. Now at times, students, you are given these type of questions. You have to match the list 1 with the list 2. So you need to relate each and everything. Left hand side, we have got presbyopia, hypermetropia, astigmatism, myopia in list 1. In list 2, we have got sphere cylindrical lenses, convex lens of proper power, concave lens of suitable focal length, bifocal lenses of suitable focal length. Now, this is based on the defects of vision. We should know that number 1, spherical lenses. They are actually used to treat which defect? That is astigmatism. If we are talking about bifocal lenses, this is basically for presbyopia. If we are talking about concave lenses, they are used for myopia, and convex lenses are used for hypermetropia. So now we can simply relate A. What is A associated with? A is associated with number 4. So these are the two options I have got with number 4. The rest two options are wrong. Then B. B should be related to 2. So B is related to 2. That means this option is incorrect. So now my correct answer is C. Let us counter check. C is associated with 1. Perfectly fine. And D is associated with 3. Perfectly fine. I have confirmed this is my right answer. Got it? Next type of questions. Let us see. Now these are the questions based on your numericals, right? These type of questions, they are based on your understanding as well as the numericals. Let us see the understanding part first. An object of size 4 centimeter, this is the size of the object given, is placed perpendicularly to the principal axis of a convex lens. The distance of the object from the mirror equals twice the focal length. No calculation required. Simply the distance of the object equals twice the focal length. That means the image will also be formed at twice the focal length, and whenever the object is kept at twice the focal length, the object will form real, inverted and same size image. So now we are being asked about the side of the image. The size will be same as that of object. So the answer will be 4 centimeters. Clear? Next. Now this is a good question. Please try to focus. The path of a refracted ray of light in a prism is parallel to the base of the prism. Let us try to draw a prism. This is a kind of prism that we know, right? Now what exactly is being asked is that this is a ray of light going. It is going to bend like this. Now we are being asked that the path of refracted ray of light in a prism is parallel to the prism of base of the prism. This is the base of the prism BC, right? So the reflected ray is going to get parallel to the base of the prism when, what are the options? The options are light is of a particular wavelength. No. Ray is incident normally at one face. If it is going perpendicularly, it's not the right answer because it is going to bend towards the base. Important thing is ray undergoes minimum deviation. If it is not much deviated, then in that case there will be not much bending taking place, and that simply means that this ray of light will go perpendicular to the base of the prism. It's a good question, right? You need to keep it in mind. At times we are given statements like these two questions, and we have to say that whether both the statements are correct, or any one is correct, the other one is false, or both are false. The air bubble shines in water. That is true. So A is true. That air bubble shines in water. Now, why exactly it shines in water? That reason is given to us in the next particular part B, that the air bubbles in water shines due to refraction of light. No, it doesn't shine because of the refraction of light. We have studied in the rainbow that it shines because of total internal reflection taking place. So now the A part is correct, but the reasoning given for it is wrong. So our answer is A is true and B is false. C option will be our answer. Next question of the same type. A cloud, it should be a cloud, in sky generally appear to be whitish. The cloud, of course, we see that they are white. So A option is correct. It is true. Now, the diffraction due to cloud is efficient in equal measure at all wavelengths. Now, this statement is incorrect because the cloud actually consists of dust particles and the water droplets. The size of these dust particles, the size of these water particles, they are very large when we compare them to the wavelength of the incident light which is coming from the sun. That is the main reason why there is very little scattering of light, and therefore the light that we receive through the clouds, they have all the colors of light, and that is why they appear to be white. So it is not because of the equal measurement of all wavelengths. So the B, the reasoning is incorrect, and therefore once again our answer will be C, that A is true but B is false. Clear? Let us see the next question. Now these are based on the optical instruments like telescope and microscope. I hope you must have already done about the lenses. Let us try to check your knowledge. A simple microscope consists of a convex lens of dash focal length. When we are talking about simple microscope, the convex lens should be of short focal length, right? The nature of image formed by a simple microscope is, a simple microscope never forms a real image, right? So simply we can strike off this B and D. Now we are left with these two options. The image has to be virtual, the image has to be magnified. Now simple thing is, when the image is virtual, it won't be inverted, so it has to be magnified. So C is our correct answer. Next question, once again based on simple microscope. To see an enlarged image formed by a simple microscope, the object has to be placed. If we want to see a large enlarged image, object has to be placed between O and F. That is when the microscope is going to form an enlarged image of the object. So based on simple microscope, we have seen quite many questions. Let us see further more questions based on these microscopes and telescopes. You need to recall all these, you need to remember while you will be going back home and learning these topics of microscopes and telescopes. Next question. To increase the magnification power of the microscopes, the focal length of the lens should be decreased because power is inversely proportional. P is equal to 1 by F. So if we want to increase the power, we need to decrease the focal length. Next question, talking about compound microscope now. In a compound microscope, the lens which is used as an objective lens has a dash focal length. Once again, the focal length should be small. It should be shorter. And the lens which is used as eye lens, it has opposite large focal length. So we need to remember in a compound microscope, the objective lens should be shorter focal length lens and the eye lens should have a large focal length. And in a compound microscope, the position of object, where is the object placed? Between F and 2F. So these are a few things you need to remember. Again, in compound microscope, what type of image is going to be formed with the help of a compound microscope we are talking about? The image formed by objective lens. We know that there are two lenses, objective and eyepiece. So when we are talking about objective lens, the image formed by the objective lens in compound microscope is always real, inverted and magnified image. So B is our correct answer. And when we talk about the image formed by eye lens, now the image formed will be, what kind of image will be formed? It will be virtual, erect and magnified image that will be formed, right? So when we are talking about eyepiece, it is a virtual, erect and magnified image that is going to be formed. Fine. So in these questions, we can relate about the compound microscope. First thing, compound microscope, the objective lens should have a shorter wavelength, focal length, and the image formed by objective lens is real, inverted and magnified. The eye lens should have a larger focal length and the image formed is virtual, erect and magnified. And whenever we are going to put an object in front of a compound microscope, the object should be placed between F and 2F. So the whole of the compound microscope, the crux, the conclusion of compound microscope, you can get in these 5 questions. Got it? Next, we'll be talking about a traveling microscope. The least count of a traveling microscope, it should be very small. It is 0.01 millimeters. Right? It should be a very small traveling microscope. The least count is very small. Next, the image formed by the simple microscope is on the dash side of the object. A simple microscopes always form an image which is on the same side of that of the object. So the answer is same. Next questions now. The refractive index of 4 substances A, B, C, D are given 1.33, 1.43, 1.33, 1.24. It is 1.31. Now out of these 4 we can see that the refractive index of B is the maximum, that is 1.43. That means it is the densest medium. Rather, sorry, it is 2.4. It is the densest medium and 1.3 is the rarest medium. Now what exactly we are being asked is the speed of light is maximum in. The speed of light will be maximum in the rarest medium, and among these all the rarest will be the one which has the lowest refractive index, which in this case is A. So our correct answer is A. Next question, where should an object be placed so that a real and inverted image of same size is formed by convex lens? Same size it has to be twice the focal length. This we have already got above also. This question is very important. Next, a ray of light incident perpendicularly on a glass slab. Now, if it is perpendicular, if it is at 90 degree, it will go undeviated, and that is why C is the correct option, that it moves along the normal. Normal, we know that is the perpendicular only. Correct? Next question. A small bulb is placed at the principal focus of a convex lens. It is placed at what? Principal focus. Now, when the bulb is switched on, the lens will produce what kind of rays will be produced? Whenever the light rays are coming from focus, they will become parallel. These are the rules for obtaining images. So, we will get a parallel beam of light. Got it? Next question. The magnification of a convex lens is. When we talk about the magnification of convex lens, we know that the convex lens produces real images. So, the magnification of a convex lens is negative. But we know that the convex lens also produces virtual image when the object is placed between optical center and the focus. So in that case, the magnification may be positive also. So the magnification will be either positive or negative. Both of the options are possible. Got it? Now, next type of question, question number 75. A convex lens forms a real diminished point-sized image. Whenever it is point-sized image formed especially at focus, then in that case the object has to be at infinity, because I have already mentioned above also we have seen this type of question indirectly, that whenever the images are formed at focus, the object is placed at infinity. Next, power of a lens is -4 diopters. What will be the focal length? We just need to calculate. We know that power is equal to 1 by f. Power is given to be -4. It comes out to be 1 by f is equal to -4. So our f becomes 1 by -4, which is equal to minus 0.25 meters. Right? Decimal place we need to relate. Next question, 77. A ray of light. Now this is a good question. Please try to relate. The ray of light of pure single color is incident on the face of a prism having angle of prism 30 degree at an angle of incidence 45 degrees. The refracted ray does not change its direction as it crosses the other face and emerges out of the prism. So the refractive index of the material of the prism is, we have to calculate, and for that we know the formula, that refractive index is equal to sin I upon sin R. Sin I is given to us to be 45 degree, right? And sin R is given to us to be 30 degree. We know the value of sin 30 is 1 by 2, right? Sin 45 is 1 by root 2. So when we calculate 1 by root 2 by 1 by 2, then we will get the answer to be root 2. Got it? So this is our option, correct answer of this particular question. Coming to the next and the last question. I am highlighting, emphasizing again on the word last, because I know that for the students this last question gives a very different kind of happy feeling, that okay, wow, yes, the class is going to get over. Yes, of course, try to relate. An object is at infinity with respect to the optical center of a converging lens. Converging lenses are the convex lenses, and the object is at infinity. So we know that the image formed will be at focus. Now what kind of image will be formed? Of course, it will be diminished to a point and inverted image will be formed. Right? So C is the best option. D is also correct, that diminished weight will be formed. Magnified, wrong. Erect, wrong. So A and D are absolutely wrong. D and B and C are correct, but C is more specific answer. So diminished to a point, an inverted image will be formed. So these are all the questions that already have been asked as far as this topic refraction is concerned. So it is quite important. Once again, I will like to emphasize that 78 questions we have done. That simply means that this topic requires a lot of your time and a lot of your effort. While doing these questions, all the students with different levels have different kind of understanding levels and preparation levels. Some of you knew most of the questions and their answers. The answers were already known to you. Some questions were like you actually forgot the answers, but once the answer was told to you, you recalled it and you say, yes, sir, okay, now I remembered. Yes, I have read it. But definitely, there must be a few questions which were new to you. Important thing is to focus on those questions which were new to you. Important is to go back home and now revise it properly and thoroughly once again, so that you make sure that now after doing this topic you are very well prepared, that you can answer all these questions. Got it? So topic was important, topic was lengthy, questions were quite many. So I hope that now you will be giving proper attention, seriously and sincerely you will be reading and learning. Learning side by side is very important, because once you only read, then in that case you are actually creating burden for yourself only. So better is, before taking up the next class, try to learn whatever is being taught in the previous class. So with this, I end up this session. It was really nice taking up this session. I hope you have understood each and everything. And till the next session, learn, study hard. Thank you so much for being with me. Take care of yourself. Have a great time.